Happiness is the state that we're meant to be in. We're the one that put all these barriers, all this resistance. This is the way I should go. And even we get messages that, oh, maybe that's not the way, but that's the way I want to go. So I'm going that way. And we resist a
Mm,
lot instead of going with the flow, like be the river, right? Go with the flow. And
mm.
again, I would say that most people at some point in their life have gone with the flow, and you just feel like your life, you're just like, oh, you feel like you're in a little raft floating along, and it's so peaceful. I think that's how our life is meant to be.
This is Your Purposeful Life, and I'm your host, Adrian Starks. I'm a speaker, podcaster, narrator, writer, and entrepreneur. On this podcast, we're taking a different approach to the understanding of purpose because it's not a one-size-fits-all. There will be a variety of guests expressing their purpose through the human mess we call the human journey. These conversations will guide you to a better awareness and understanding of your unique purpose in the daily life of mistakes, changes, and challenges, and how to put that purpose into action, bringing you more experiences of success, fulfillment, and achievement on your terms. Let's go on this journey of purpose together. Welcome back, everyone, to Your Purposeful Life, and I'm your host, Adrian Starks, and it is here where we are changing the dialect on purpose and the concept of it and what that can mean for you in your life. Today, I would like to welcome on a special guest, and her name is Cathy Nesbitt, to our community and to our show. Cathy, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what you do and what you're bringing here to the planet and to your community. But first, we're going to talk about our topic. We're going to talk about laughter and how it's the best medicine and how it benefits and adding a lot to our daily lifestyle. We will also be talking about earthworms. Ooh, I can't wait for that one. And I think we do have some on the show here today. I'm super excited about it. But I want to get back to you, Cathy, a little bit later here. But I want to first just get some things out of the way for our guest. I would like for you all to go to our Your Purposeful Life website, yourpurposeful.life. Go there to download this podcast into any podcast platform. Follow us on our social media channels and go to our YouTube page and click that subscribe button with a purpose, like you mean it. All right. So now we are back to the show itself, Cathy. And Cathy Nesbitt is a speaker. She's an earthworm advocate. I like that one. An ecopreneur. I haven't heard that term before. Laughter and health and wellness specialist. So we're going to talk a lot about those concepts that Cathy brings to this show today. But first, I want to ask you, Cathy, here. I've heard that the phrase laughter is the best medicine. And I think it was by some philosopher. But I want to ask you, is there any truth to that, of laughter being the best medicine for us?
I love that. Yes, it's a universal expression. If you ask anybody anywhere in the world if they've ever heard if laughter is the best medicine, I haven't met anybody yet that hasn't heard that expression. So it's true.
Okay.
Somehow we forgot, or it's been squished out of us. You know, really, you can't control people when they're laughing full on. Right? Think about at a party or something, everyone's laughing, ha ha ha, time to take places, everybody. It's a ha 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 ha, like no one's listening. Right? They're just laughing.
Right.
Yeah, so laughter is the best medicine. How I follow that question is, have you had your daily dose? Dopamine.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, right?
Get dopamine. Dopamine's the thing that keeps us relaxed and feeling good about ourselves. And it's the chemical released by the brain. Here's an interesting thing. You mentioned that laughter, when we're laughing, we can't be controlled. That caught me when you said that. Mm. So what do you actually mean by that? When we laugh, we can't be controlled?
Because when we laugh, we actually lose ourselves. It's not really a great survival mechanism, because when we're laughing full on for real, like we're really laughing and we can't stop laughing. We've all been there. It might be a long time ago when you were a kid, but we've all been there where our stomach's hurting. We might pee a bit.
I don't know if I did that one, but I know people who did pee when they laugh.
And you actually lose yourself. So imagine we can only laugh full on when we feel safe. Right? So imagine in prehistoric days, caveman days, if they were laughing in a group, they would be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, because when you're laughing, your knees go weak. So you actually couldn't run away.
Interesting. So laughing also makes us more vulnerable to a situation, to an environment. And but also laughing releases us from feeling the tension of fear or fight or flight response. So it's kind of has a little bit of a double-edged sword to it, which I like the idea of what you're bringing to laughter. So my next question to you is this, what can some people do if this is the case? Laughter can actually be medicine for us, can help us with our lives and release tension. What can some people do to bring more laughter into their lives, especially since we're in a global crisis right now? Cathy, you know this. I mean, interest
Mm.
rates, inflation, we have wars going on. We have all these things from the pandemic to other viruses out there and just common everyday concerns for people. What can they do to bring more laughter in their lives that can help them cope with those things?
Yeah, right. All of those things that you mentioned are heavy and they're not even isolated. They're on top of each other. Pandemic, war, inflation. Everything's piled on top. So it's like, oh, you're not yet, folks? Here you go. Here's some more. So laughter literally saves our life. I mean, it just brings us back to the present. It helps us get out of stress. We're not laughing at the situation. It seems like, how can we laugh? It's so serious. It's so scary out there. How can we possibly
Mm-hmm.
laugh? We must. We must. Laughter yoga is not about jokes or comedy. It's not about doing yoga and laughing. It's just laughing. It's
Mm.
literally just laughing for the health of it.
I like that. You said we must laugh. That's the thing. Sometimes we feel guilty about having a good time or laughing. First thing we think is, well, there's problems going on. There are people suffering. And it's okay to be empathetic toward those things because we all have a human bond. But what you're saying is that it is okay for us to have some fun in our lives and not to feel guilty about it.
It's our divine right, Adrian.
Mm.
Happiness is the state that we're meant to be in. We're the one that put all these barriers, all this resistance. This is the way I should go. And even we get messages that, oh, maybe that's not the way, but that's the way I want to go. So I'm going that way. And we resist a
Mm.
lot instead of going with the flow, like be the river, right? Go with the flow. And
Mm.
again, I would say that most people, at some point in their life have gone with the flow, and you just feel like your life, you're just like, oh, you feel like you're in a little raft floating along, and it's so peaceful because everything's
Yeah.
happening on, like, wow, this is so great. I don't know what's going on, but everything's working. I think that's how our life is meant to be. That's how
Oh,
I
I
live
love
my
that.
life now. But it took a long time to get here. And I speak now a lot about this because I'm going to be 60 this year. And I think it's my role as an older person.
Congratulations.
Yay, congratulations. I made it 6 decades.
You look great
Yoo-hoo.
for 60. I mean, you can
Thank
tell.
you.
This is what I'm saying here. Laughter reduces the years of our life, right? Or is it adds years into our life? Which one is it?
It
You know?
adds good years. It adds good years, right? It adds
Yeah.
the time that we're here is nobody knows how long they're here for. Nobody knows.
No one
Right? We
does.
don't know. So one day at a time, anything could happen. Anything could happen. So I think one moment at a time, like things happen. Absolutely. Do things happen to
Hmm.
me? Of course. Or, I'm human. So what laughter does is it helps one become more resilient,
Hmm.
to help to go against the stress. So what happens, I'm really taking a deep dive during this cuckoo time. Like we've got a
Hmm.
global, you said it, we have a global crisis on our hands. And I'm not talking about the pandemic.
Hmm.
I'm talking about the mental health state of the world. And it was
Yes.
here. It was here before 2020. But we have to look at it now because it's global, and it's way bigger because there's many, many more people that are affected at this time. Like, how do you torture somebody, Adrian?
Hmm.
How about if we isolate them? Oh, yeah, that's a
Hmm.
great way to torture people. What have we done for the past 2 years?
Being
We've
isolated.
isolated.
It's impacted me, actually. Being isolated and not being able to be with people. For instance, I was in Canada for a little bit, and with the pandemic, I was unable to see my family here in the States. And that caused a lot of emotional downward spirals for me. And just not being able to be around people, to say hi, to see faces, to be able to go somewhere at my own will and say, you know, I'm going to go here because I want to. I'm going to go inside this store because I want to have that be taken away. And I understand the concepts of that, but that is something that as a human being, from a social perspective, that we were not prepared for. And neither should we have been prepared for that, because that's not a common thing for us. And this mental health you're talking about, I love that you brought that up, because that is what is going on across the world. It is this mental perspective that we're all being affected by, but a lot of us are unwilling to accept it as what it is and to allow ourselves to free ourselves from it. So I love what you're doing with laughter and how
Yeah, to
you're
take
giving it
back
to
our
people.
power, like literally take back our power. You know, when we're laughing, we're secreting the love drugs. Dopamine, you stopped me at dopamine, but D.O.S.E is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. It's D.O.S.E.
Dose. Need a dose of that.
Right? All the love drugs versus cortisol, right? Versus cortisol when we're stressed. And our little, the stress part in our brain hasn't evolved. So when we go into stress all the time, our body thinks we're in imminent danger. And maybe we are sometimes, but for the most part, we're really not. Like if we lose our keys, we're probably not going to die. But our body reacts as if. So,
As if.
right, all of that cortisol creating through our body. So now our heart's racing, we're not breathing properly. Cortisol, which now our body needs to get rid of before we can start functioning again. Right? We got to get back into parasympathetic. There's so many wonderful healing modalities with laughter, like benefits, I mean.
I love that. And I love those benefits that you just listed. Now, can we laugh when we are sad, or do we need to be in a happy state just to laugh? What I'm getting at is, have you ever been around someone and they're laughing, but they may have just experienced something that is possibly traumatic for them, or something that just wasn't right, and they go into what we call a hysterical laugh? But can we be in a state of sadness and laugh? And if we are in a state of sadness and we laugh, what is that really implying about ourselves in that moment in time?
Oh, that's good. That's great. Absolutely. So we're in charge of our own state. We really are. And all of these emotions are part of our journey. You know, we get angry, we get sad, you know, we're in love. All of these things that we feel, we're meant to feel them for sure. Can we laugh when we're sad? Yes, because our body doesn't know the difference between real and simulated laughter. When you laugh, you still secrete all those beneficial chemicals. When you're sad, you're secreting a different set of chemicals. And we're in charge of our own pharma by how we feel and our body language. You know, think about when you do feel sad, depressed, anxious, frustrated. You know, generally you're not taking up a lot of space, maybe looking down, maybe, you know, you're just like not moving a lot, just kind of depressed. I would say depressed, like all your whole body is kind of depressed, your physiology. Versus when you're happy and you're feeling good and you kind of just float around. We can change how we are by how we act. And there is a wonderful movie that I would suggest everybody watch. It's called You Are What You Act.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a 2018 Hot Docs film by Albert Nuremberg. Okay. And just like a brief synopsis in that film, it struck me so much about... they talked about Tom Cruise and how he saves people in real life from burning buildings, whatever. He saved people because he did that in movies. It's in his DNA. Mm-hmm. So what about the opposite? Somebody that's acting depressed for a movie, for a part, for 6 months. Now that person is depressed because they acted depressed for 6 months. So now they are. And once they're finished the movie, if they want to get out of depression, they need to take action. They need to go to therapy, or, you know, they need to
I've heard of that.
Yeah. So you are what you act. Now, I'm going to take that one further because we're talking about laughter and this mental health thing that we have going on. I divulged at the beginning that I don't have a cell phone. That's the truth. But so people do have their cell phone. I do laughter yoga, and it's all about imagination. So I can imagine that I have one.
For our audience here, just quickly, before we got on this call, I mentioned to Cathy about just, turning our cell phones off is what we do, all the hosts do, just to make sure there's no interruptions. And the Cathy told me that I don't have a cell phone. I have a landline. And I was like, oh, okay, great. You had a landline. That's perfect then. So that's what the cell phone situation is. But continue on, Cathy.
So you think about, we talked about the addictive property of the cell phone. And so here we are. So most people have a cell phone. And how are you when you're on your cell phone? We just talked about the physiology of depression. When you're on your cell phone, you have candy cane neck because you're looking down at your thing. And we're looking down at our thing more and more because it's meant to addict us. And it does, if that's even proper in language. Right? It's meant to keep our eyes on it. And it does.
Right.
So now our body, no matter if we're looking at some cute cat video or something really funny on our video, on our phone,
a lot of cat videos out there.
Our physiology says depression. So we're sending a mixed message to our body like, oh, I'm laughing, but I'm have depression physiology.
Oh,
yikes. Wow.
Interesting.
Wow. That blew my mind. Again, not having that, I'm able to observe different things than other people. And that struck me. So whenever I speak now and I speak about this, I say, like, smart people out there that are listening, some inventor, please. We have selfie sticks. How about a harness or something so we can be upright while on our thing, because we're not going to get rid of technology.
So what you're saying here, what you just said here, Cathy, was absolutely mind-blowing for me. So this physiological state we put our body in by bending over to look at our cell phones, actually putting us into a state of fear or sadness. And so even when we are laughing at these multitude of cat videos that are out there, and trust me, there's a lot of them. Some of them are pretty funny. But still, there's a part of us that feels the need to watch more, and that becomes the addiction. We're trying to keep ourselves happy. We're laughing more. We're seeing this, but what we're doing is it's counterintuitive because we're in this state of sadness. So maybe if we change our state of our body posture, then maybe there's less time we would spend on our phones because then our body becomes activated. That's what I'm getting from this conversation.
Absolutely. There is a thing called power posing even.
Okay.
Like
yeah,
you
the
kind
power
of said
posing.
it, right? Like where you're do your Wonder Woman or Superman or whatever you want to do. Like any time that, like in laughter yoga, we say very good, and then yay, because throwing your arms in the air is the sign of victory. If you're running a race and you're the winner, you always throw your arms in like, yippee, I'm the one. And you can't be sad and happy when you have this posture. It's impossible. So here's another little thing for anyone that's listening and they're like, that's me, I'm feeling sad. Power posing, looking at yourself in the mirror, it's not easy. It isn't. Start with 30 seconds and then build up to a minute, couple of minutes, and just like look at yourself and be thinking good thoughts like, wow, look at me. What a great body, or, I'm beautiful. Just think wonderful things about yourself because we only have one body. And stop comparing, right? We're always looking at, oh, what about that? Oh, look at them. They seem to have the life. And social media exacerbates that because everything comes in little bites, like little snippets. And people only put their highlight reel on the social media.
Oh yeah, they do. I tell people this a lot. I say, you're looking at someone who has chosen to give you a certain thing they want you to see. And also when we're comparing ourselves with these still pictures, that's a frozen moment in time. Follow those people around for a day. Trust me, you'll find something sad, something that will annoy you about them. But social media is just this place where it's like everything is about being perfect, which is, if we dial back into mental health, which is really hurting our society, also our youth, more importantly, because they're feeling like they're missing out on a lot of things and they have to be a certain way. So I'm glad that we're talking about laughter today because I want us to incorporate that more into our lives. But you also mentioned something earlier I want to go back to. You said the word pharma. Now, what does that mean? Pharma. What is the terminology?
Yeah, so pharmaceutical, PHAR.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Pharma, in that we're secreting our own love drugs or like stress hormones. We're secreting all of this stuff all the time, and we're in charge of that because our brain and our heart, all of these things are connected, and what our thoughts make all of this stuff happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying, to get off your meds or something. If people are medicated, that's fine. Just know that when we're laughing, we are secreting the feel-good hormones and not just the drugs that we're secreting in our body. Our brain, it's the oxygen, I think, is the really most important part of laughter. So our brain requires 25% more oxygen as an operating principle, right? It's a machine. It's the answering machine.
25%. Wow. Okay.
Right? It's huge. So when we're stressed, we're not breathing properly. For sure, our brain isn't getting or our body's not getting what it needs. For sure, our brain isn't. And I go back to the keys, like ever lost your keys and you're flapping around. You're like, I gotta go. Where are my keys? Right? As long as you're in that state, you're never finding your keys because your brain is literally being deprived of oxygen.
I like that. Speaking of laughter, let's talk about this laugh club you got going on here. Yeah. When did you form this club, and what does it consist of? What do you do if you're a part of this club? What happens?
Thank you. I've been laughing since 2012. A laughter leader teacher since 2012. And
okay.
I didn't have a club because I said, universe, I don't want to do a free laughter club because I bring enough for free already. I want to get paid gigs. Okay. Whatever you ask for, that's what you get. And so before COVID, that's what I was getting. People were like, I want to come to your laughter club. I'm like, I don't have one because I keep getting paid gigs. What fun, right? Laughing all the way to the bank. Fun. And that's the truth. That's true. And then COVID, boom, shut down everything because I was going into long-term care, working with special needs, cancer, hospice, right? All the medical places that you couldn't go in. Like, even still today, long-term care is not letting just anybody in. Okay, so then COVID, our 2-week holiday was extended and it kept getting extended. And it was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And everybody was in fear, like, no, what's going on? This worldwide thing, nobody knew. Well, somebody knew, but we don't know who. Right? And so June 2020, I was like, I'm going to start an online club. I need people. I'm chatty Cathy. I need people. And I needed to laugh. I was so afraid, like everybody. I was just so stressed and not living my life. And I didn't like the feeling at all. So I started my club. It's on Zoom. It's every Tuesday, 2 years. Can you imagine, Adrian? And I get people from around the world. I get men, women. I get special needs. Sometimes with my worm business, I get...
which we'll get into also a little bit later here.
Stay tuned, folks. The worms are coming.
We haven't forgot about the worms. They're coming
in.
They're crawling their way to us.
So what, going into schools, again, back to the mental health, I did my first, because before COVID, again, I was doing a lot of school workshops for my worms. And then everything shut down, no more guests in schools because it was all online. So that I did my first in-person just before summer break. And I was shocked how different the children were. I was just really, my heart was aching. I knew that I really needed to bring more laughter because those children were damaged. At least the ones that I saw, they were just not responding the same. Right, 2 years at that young age, they haven't had like the things that they need for life. So I invited the class to that one class to my workshop, and they came. And then they were doing a thing in the school for mental health the first week of May, and they said, "Can the school come?" So the whole school came to my laughter club. The whole school, can you imagine? So I said, and that was in Zoom. So, 47 little squares. It was the class, each class came.
I just love that. Oh. And that's the thing. You created, this is what we're talking about in this show, the power of being purposeful. It started from you saying, I do not want to be isolated. I'm going to create something that's going to be for me and other people to share together. That became your purpose. And this purpose manifested. It grew into being into across the world with schools. And this is why I truly believe that it's so important for us to understand what moves us. A lot of people talk about what is my purpose? And my question for everyone is, what do you want to be purposeful towards? And that's why I got you on the show, Cathy, because I was like, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I love the idea of bringing laughter across the world. Now, there is another aspect of you that I also wanted to learn more about. So you have another special way that you are serving your community, and that way is with some crawly friends that I think you brought with you today. And they've been patiently waiting on the side. They've been,
In the green
very
room.
polite, in the green room, waiting for their time to shine. And we're going to give them that time to shine. So let's talk about this process of vermicompost or worm composting, right? That you mentioned in some of your things on your website that I had a chance to go and look at. How did this idea come about for you, or has this theory been around for a while?
Yeah, so it's the 20th anniversary of my worm composting business, Cathy's Crawly Composters.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I believe that's why I was put on Earth. I didn't know that people could have more than one mission, more than one purpose. And now I understand there's multiple. We can have multiple things, and even multiple things at one time. How beautiful! So I'm located in near Toronto, Canada. Largest city in Canada, and our landfill closed in 2002. And although we're second largest country in the world, nobody wants a landfill in their backyard, so we couldn't find a place for a new landfill. 6 million people in the Greater Toronto area, a lot of garbage being created every day, so they needed a solution. So the solution they came up with was, hey, Michigan's accepting garbage. So we started to export our garbage. Not we, Canada, Toronto government decided to start exporting their garbage to the U.S. And 1,000 trucks a week were making the trip from the Toronto area to Michigan. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Like 18-wheelers, not the cute little garbage truck that goes around the streets, the honking 18-wheelers. Wow, it was mind-blowing. It still is. When I say that out loud, I still think, man, and I say to the kids when I do workshops, shame on us as Canadians for shipping our garbage out of the country. Sorry about this, but double shame on the Americans for accepting it for cash. Like, there's only one planet, and here we are just creating so much extra greenhouse gas emissions. And I look at the organic matter as a resource, which it is. Like, if we call it garbage, it's garbage. But if we call it a resource, it is. Right? So the worms, so I had a solution. My first purpose was, oh my gosh, we're spending all of our tax dollars. Like, there go our tax dollars to the US. Oh, what about us? Right? I mean, right. It cost a lot of money for the privilege to export our garbage. Right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, we've got space down here, we'll just take your garbage for nothing. No. Okay. So I was like, I got a solution. So Toronto, 6 million people, half live in condos, townhouses, places without outdoor composting. And I understand even if you live in a house with space, you may not compost. And that's fine. No judgment. Just, it is what it is. So I was like, I got a solution. This is indoor composting with worms. So you have a bin. It's your shredded paper, your food scraps, beautiful worms. They stay in the container because they eat half their weight per day in food scraps. So they're hungry buggers, right? So and it's aerobic, meaning with oxygen. So it's not going to smell like rotting food. And then the worms eat all of that, the paper, the food scraps, and then they turn it into like worm poo, compost. And when I say to the kids, oh, I hold up some of the compost and I say, look at what the worms made. It's worm poo. And when I say poo, they go, ew. And I say, okay, all right, what if we call it black gold? Then they go, I say worm poo, ew, black gold. Oh, sounds valuable. Right? And it is. Let me show you the stars.
Let's take a look at these stars here. Let's see these beautiful.
Look at them.
Oh, look at that.
They're cute and small.
Yeah. So are there different types of worms? Like, is there a different species of worms, or are they all like just worms? I don't know. I don't have any background in worms.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that question. These are, so you saw how small they are. They're pretty small.
Yeah.
Those are red wigglers. There are thousands of types of earthworms. Thousands, like 3,000 or 4,000 that we've identified. There's probably way more. There's only 4 that are optimum for vermicomposting or worm composting. Red wigglers are the optimum. European night crawlers, African night crawlers, and perionyx, which are a tropical worm.
So only 4 types for composting.
Right? Yeah. And they're the ones that live in a container. So depending where you are in North America, after a rain, you may get worms coming out of the side, of the earthworms. Mm-hmm. So those worms, they're kind of cousins to the red wigglers. They live below the frost line, and they don't eat nitrogen, so they're not composting worms. Because I get the question all the time, can I just get the worms from my backyard? You could, sure, I can't stop you, but they're not going to work.
Those worms they're like, hey, we're not the ones.
We're not the ones. This is where we live, right? They need space. They're travelers. They go up and down, and they prefer cooler climates, so they live below the frost line. The red wigglers are heat-loving worms, so they're indoor spoiled worms. Yeah, it's so beautiful. It really is a wonderful thing, and the hard part about a worm business is the worms.
Right.
It sounds ridiculous, but I'm on purpose with this. And it's the 20th anniversary. Oh, and 2020 was my busiest year. The year we were shut down. Because in Canada, we had more strict rules than many countries even. I don't know what happened here, but we were obedient. We just stayed inside. We were shut down for a very long time. And the schools were closed. So at the beginning, I got calls from parents saying, oh, we're homeschooling and we need a project for the kids. Now, as a businesswoman, what do I care about how the worms get in the house? Right? So I was like, okay, a little project, that'll be great. That's fine. And then as we were shut down longer and longer, in Canada, we import about 60% of our food, 60, because of winter. So when our border closes, food becomes not so more secure. Scarce. Yeah. Right. We need to think about our food. So I think this is just what I'm thinking about how it went. But I think the longer we were shut down, people were thinking, oh my gosh, we should start a garden. What do we need? We need soil. Oh, what do we need? We need to compost. Oh, I heard something. I read something about a crazy worm woman. And then they got in touch with me. So I was really struggling with my success that year, my busiest year ever, 18 years it had been. And I was trying to celebrate. I was like, wow, this is so great. How can I celebrate? And then I got it all inside myself, like, ooh, so many people are struggling, losing their jobs. How can I celebrate? And then I realized, my goodness, I must, just like laughter, I must celebrate to give people hope. Like, it is hopeful. Go find your purpose. What do you want to do? What problem do you want to solve? What do you want to bring? How do you want to live your life? Go do that. We don't need a lot of money. We think we do. Because when we buy a lot of stuff, we think we need money to pay for that. And we do. But I'm here to tell you that the more stuff we have, the more stressful our life is.
Oh, I like that. And I also reminds me of a quote by Abraham Lincoln. And he said that we are about as happy as we make up our minds to be. And I find that it's really important for us to understand what brings us joy, or what we can bring joy to. And what you've been doing this whole process is bringing joy through laughter and through earthworms, which happen to be the coolest thing, I think, in the world. Now, I want to also let our audience know today, my listeners out here, that there is a TED Talk that you have done called The Wonderful World of Worms. So what I will do is I will put that link in the show notes so that you can go and learn more about worms and make sure you get the right ones that Cathy just mentioned, the 4 species. Don't go out there getting your backyard worms, because they're going to have an attitude with you. They're going to be like, oh, we're not the ones. You put me back. So you can learn more about the earthworms themselves and how you can contribute to your community and also to the planet. Like you mentioned, Cathy, it's a great thing to have them to do the composting for us because of the recycle problems, and also too just landfills being completely just overrun. I don't think that we realize how much waste we have on this planet. And I heard that there's a floating landfill in the ocean. Like, there is a place where they have all the mess from the landfills that's just floating around the ocean, a spot that's just there because there's no room on land. And if we get to that point where we're doing that, that's a problem.
And I heard it's the size of Texas, but I don't know. I heard it's the size of Texas.
Yeah, I was stunned when I heard about that. And I was like, wait, what? It's out in the water? So it's up to us to really think more about having that green thumb. And even if you feel like you don't have one, you can learn how to have one. And let's start today with, doing our part and learning more about earthworms. And I'm going to put some of Cathy's information here in the show notes. You can go and look more about what she's doing. And who knows, maybe you want to join the Laughter Club and bring some more laughter into your life. And with that being said, Cathy, what is a way that our audience can reach out to you to learn more about what you're doing?
Cathy'sClub.com is my laughter page. And there's a link right at the top how to get to my Tuesday Laughter Club. It's 9:30 a.m. Eastern. On Zoom, 30 minutes, super fun self-care. And my worm website is cathyscomposters.com.
Okay. And the question I want to end with here today for you is, what is your purpose for being here on this planet? Or what do you find that you're bringing purpose to?
I feel like my purpose for being on this planet is to show other people the way, to help them know that life is meant to be joy-filled. I mean, it's a choice. We get to decide how we live our life. And I really want to show people that, I have a strange life where I have worms and laughter. But what are the worms and laughter in your life that will get you, where you wake up every day and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. What a life. I've had so many opportunities because I'm unique and I look for things.
Yes, you are.
Everybody's unique. Okay. I don't mean I'm different than everyone else. Everybody's unique, and we're not meant to follow the path of somebody else. Mm-hmm. We're really not, like our parents tell us, maybe our parents want us to do something that they didn't have a chance to do, but that's not necessarily our journey. Mm-hmm. Like, sorry that you didn't get to do that, mom or dad, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to be a lawyer or whatever.
I love it. Well, Cathy, this has been an amazing time to have you on the show today to talk about the power of laughter and having earthworms in our life and this purpose of what you're bringing to the planet and how you're helping us to find and discover and to put our purpose out here as well. It's been a wonderful time, Cathy, and I look forward to seeing more of what you're doing. And thank you for being on the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's been great. All right. Have an amazing day and say goodbye to my Earth buddies. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to Your Purposeful Life today. And I'm your host, Adrian Starks. Download this podcast on any platform of your choice by going to our website, yourpurposeful.life. Join me on my social media channels and be a part of the Your Purposeful Life community. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that like button with a purpose. Let's help you shape your purpose your way.